Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, glad you're back on the Investigative Journal on this February 6th, 2017 day on our calendar. Greg Anthony here. And before I get to my main topic of discussion today, and that's the Tony Alamo case, how it relates to Christian persecution today, how we're trying to get him out of prison after he's been there almost a decade for crimes he hasn't committed. And we're going to spend the hour talking about that, how it relates to even what's going on in the world today and Donald Trump, and it's going to be an interesting show, so stick with me. But first, let me get to my Jesuit quote of the day. And what that is, I'm going to refer to 2008 first, and that's when Father Adolfo Nicolas, a Spanish priest, took over as the elected new superior general of the Jesuits. Now, very unprecedented. At that time, Father Hans Kolvenbach resigned. You always see there's been a lot of resignations lately in the papacy. A rare resignation of a pope, a rare resignation of a Jesuit general, as these are lifelong posts. Now, it's also interesting that even Time magazine back then stated this: the rest of the Catholic Church never allowed a Jesuit to be elected to the real papacy, the Pope, for fear of concentrating too much power in the hands of the order. Well, apparently that has gone awry, because we know we have a Jesuit Pope right now, Pope Francis. And he's taking a lot of heat from conservatives. There's articles coming out in Italy right now, and we'll get to that this week when I bring on some people from Italy to talk about how the conservative wing of the church is up in arms against Francis. But that's for another day. But what Time didn't mention is the incredible global power that the Jesuits hold today. And this is nothing new. And according to historian Dave Hunt, the Pope has thousands of secret agents worldwide. They include Jesuits, the Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Opus Dei, and others. Jesuits aim at universal dominion. They have rendered themselves indispensable to the Pope and to the U.S. governors. They hold revolutions in their hands. And as it is written by Luigi Descantis in 1865, it is they who rule the world. Now, do you think it's changed today? I don't. Now, let's go way back, and my quote of the day is from Michelangelo Tamburini. He was in 1720. He made this quote. He was then a general of the Jesuits, and he said this to the Duke of Brancas. Quote, "See, my lord, from this room I govern not only Paris, but China, not only China, but the whole world, without anyone knowing how it's managed." Well, you know, it hasn't changed today. Now, this friendly-looking Adolfo Nicolas, look at it. You got to look at a picture of this guy. Self-effacing, approachable, very nice. But that isn't equivalent to being a Christian. Jesus says this in Matthew. Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Not everyone, he says, will enter the king of heaven. Now, Nicholas, you know, he appears to be a really affable, nice man. But behind the scenes, we have a lot more working. But anyway, I want to get to that in another day regarding him and what's really going on behind the scenes. But let's get back to my main topic of discussion today, and that's the Tony Alamo case. Well, let me clear up that quote again, because I kind of messed it up. It was from Matthew 7:21, and it says this: Jesus says, "Not everyone who says, quote, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven." Just wanted to clear that up. Okay, back to Tony Alamo, who sits in a prison cell now for over a decade for crimes he hasn't committed. And for those of you who aren't aware, there's a website called freetonyalamo.com. You can go to that. You can go to alamoministries.com and get their story. And also on that Free Tony Alamo website, if you go to the top left of the website, you can click on a petition that we've started to a number of people. A lot of people have signed online and offline. And we're going to present this to the pardon attorney. I believe in the spring. I need 3 months to get this all together, and also to give the Trump administration a chance to even get their feet wet. I mean, he can't even get his cabinet members in yet. And so I want to wait until things have settled down a little bit in Washington. So anyway, we have a better chance of getting Pastor Alamo, at least his sentence, commuted with the Trump administration, as they have made a concerted effort to talk about Christian persecution overseas. They've made a concerted effort, Donald Trump has made a concerted effort to, one, say he's going to get rid of the Johnson Amendment, which means that it'll open up President Johnson put a clamp on the ministers' voices in this country, saying that they can't get their 501c3 money if they speak up for a political candidate. So Trump wants to get rid of that. He's also talked about God many, many times in his speeches. So I hope that there's a more flexible alternative to the Trump administration when it comes to Christian pastors like Tony Alamo, who have been basically ramrodded into prison. His reputation has been slandered. And my goodness, if you look at this case, I've known this ministry for, I say a decade. It's been longer than that. How time flies, and I've checked out every aspect of it. And I believe if you get by all the slandering of the media, you know how they do it. Look at what they're doing today. It's obvious when we go back 10, 15, 20 years that the media has always had a hidden agenda, and that hidden agenda comes from the very people I talked about at the opening of the show, the Jesuits and the Vatican. And Tony was not shy about talking about that, and he has been targeted for more than 40 years by the U.S. government agencies, and including but not limited to the FBI, BATF, CIA, and IRS. FBI informants have come forward with sworn testimony that they were hired to frame Pastor Alamo for his biblical and political views. The sworn testimony, folks, was not allowed in his 2008 criminal trial for violations of the Mann Act, in which close examination of trial and appeal documents indicate a miscarriage of justice of the worst degree. Now, in presenting this petition to commute Tony's sentence, we're going to have affidavits, and I'm in the process of reaching out to a whole bunch of people who are witnesses to this travesty of justice, as well as a man that I interviewed years ago, even prior to the 2008 raid that led to the arrest and phony conviction of Tony Alamo. His name is John Peeler. Now, recently, I want to read this, but before I do, I want to read an affidavit that Peeler tried to get to the court. He was not allowed to testify, and I believe it's incredible. If this man would be allowed to testify, the jury would have had a completely different view on what was going on behind the scenes in the Alamo case, but they didn't allow anyone to testify to the fact that the government for years had been infiltrating this ministry, hiring people to basically find any little thing, or to try and get Tony to push drugs, to have weapons, anything. In fact, I believe they wanted him to be Waco before Waco. And Peeler had told me that in interviews. So I interviewed these guys a lot over the years. And I have an interview I want to play again that I did with Tony back in 2007, and I'm going to get to that. But first, let me get to this affidavit that was sent to me, and I'm compiling this, which will be included in the pardon the petition to commute Tony's sentence so we can get him out of jail. He's 82 years old. He's blind, and he doesn't deserve to be there. And if you go to the petition site, read hundreds and hundreds of people who have come out to speak up for this man. And I'm going to give it the best shot I can to see if we can get him out of prison this year. Now, this is Tony said this recently, and I got the petition, or I got the affidavit of Peeler, and here's what he said. Here is just one of the many testimonies that I wanted to call at my trial, said Tony, but my attorneys would not let me. I've done over 8 years, and he's done over 8 years in prison now, and I feel that the time has come to bring to light something that needs to be straightened out very badly. Here it is from one of my key witnesses. Okay. Now, this affidavit was filed after the trial and on appeal, and it was filed on November 28th, 2012, and in the United States District Court of Western District of Arkansas, Texarkana Division, and affidavit of John Peeler, a former FBI undercover agent. And John said this, comes now, and I'm going to read to you the legal document, comes now affiant John Peeler, and being first duly sworn upon his oath, states and affirms the following. 1. I, John Peeler, am a resident of Arkansas, and have been for the last several years. 2. Prior to Tony Alamo's trial in July of 2009, I was contacted by Mr. Alamo's attorneys regarding information I had concerning Mr. Alamo and the circumstances surrounding the investigation that led to his arrest and prosecution. 3. During my conversation with Mr. Alamo's counsel, I expressed my willingness to testify in Mr. Alamo's trial as a subpoenaed hostile witness. I stayed in contact with several members of the Alamo Foundation, including member Don Sweet, during this time period leading up to Mr. Alamo's trial. According to members of the Alamo Foundation, Mr. Alamo's counsel informed them on several different occasions that they plan to have a subpoena issued for my testimony. The Alamo Foundation members called me several times prior to trial to ask if I had received a subpoena yet. I never did. I was never contacted by Mr. Alamo's counsel, again to discuss my potential testimony, and I was never asked to testify at trial. 5. At trial, I would have testified in the following matters. Now listen to this, folks, because this is really important, very important. And it's just one aspect of this case that is so interesting. Well, it is basically a frame job from beginning to end. But here's what he said. And he said, I would have testified to the following matters. A. I was a former violent crimes task force operative, informant, and employee assigned to do an undercover operation for different government agencies. B. I was sworn in by Honorable Judge Howard Jr. of the United States District Court for the District of Arkansas, 1998. Present at my swearing were Agents Glenn Jordan and Bill Buford of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, BATFE. Now, years ago I tried to contact these guys. They would not talk to me. And if he's giving names like this, don't you think the court had an obligation to subpoena these people to make sure that the testimony that Peeler was going to give was truthful, based on the fact that he's giving a sworn testimony subject to perjury charges? But they never contacted any of these people. They wanted to cover it up. Now, C. The Violent Crimes Task Force began targeting Tony Alamo in 1998, and I was assigned to infiltrate Mr. Alamo's church and business operations with the goal of finding criminal evidence against Mr. Alamo. D. For several years, I investigated Mr. Alamo and his church and business operations. I spoke with various members of his church and gathered information about the ministry and Mr. Alamo's personal and public life. I also spoke with Mr. Alamo himself on several occasions. After several years of investigating Mr. Alamo, I found no evidence of any criminal activity, criminal organization in either his personal life or his church and business operations. F. Despite the lack of criminal evidence, the Violent Crimes Task Force continued to pressure and push me to find something they could use against Mr. Alamo. Various situations were set up in an effort to catch Mr. Alamo engaging in criminal activity. However, none were successful. Mr. Alamo would not take drugs, money, or weapons. He wanted nothing to do with anything illegal. Now, when I relayed this information to the Violent Crimes Task Force, BATFE agents, Glenn Jordan and Bill Buford, and FBI agent Kenneth Petros, they became extremely upset. They were intent on prosecuting Mr. Alamo, and when I could not report back to them with any evidence of criminal activity, they wanted me to fabricate evidence. I refused and subsequently left the Violent Crimes Task Force. Since then, me and my son, John Christopher Peeler, have been subjected to repeated threats and harassment for the Violent Crimes Task Force and Little Rock Police and other government agents. Okay, so there is the affidavit from Peeler, which was not allowed into the trial. I mean, that is completely off the wall, because this would have shown there was a concerted effort to frame Tony. Now, if you can go to many of my shows regarding, I've had Peeler on the radio with me. I've had Peeler and Alamo talking to each other, and Peeler basically apologizing to Tony for this. The court had an obligation to at least check this story out, and they didn't. They would not go and even talk to Glenn Jordan or Bill Buford to verify this statement. And that shows to me that this man, this is just one aspect of him not receiving a fair trial. You know what I want to do? There's an interview I had with Tony years ago, and I want to play that for a while just so that you can hear his voice again. And let me do that right now. Okay, I did want to say I've interviewed Tony for hours and hours and hours, known about this case and researched it as a journalist. Also using, I went to law school, so I was very interested in some of the aspects of the criminal trial that were so outlandish. In fact, I remembered, and I'm going to have Bert Krantz from the ministry on again this week. And one of the most telling things about this case was they also had kidnapped a number of the children from the Alamo ministry, and there were DHS cases and child custody cases going on, and Bert's kids were taken illegally, and the prosecutors and some of the people involved in the case came to him and said, listen, if you basically lie about Tony and back up the story that we're giving, you can get your kids back tomorrow. Bert refused to lie about Tony, and boy, I'll tell you, that's another affidavit we're going to get. And there's much in this case that needs to be known to the public, because I still get emails regarding people who just relied on the mainstream media. It's funny how people they just can't get through their head that the mainstream media is controlled by the Jesuits, who really had a bone to pick with Tony for all of his criticism for over 40 years regarding the Vatican and the Jesuit control behind the government. And it's nothing that many researchers are talking about today, at least those who aren't afraid to buck the system, so to speak. But here's that interview, one of the interviews I did with Tony back in 2007. I thought you might want to hear it. Got about 5 minutes on this side of the break, and then we'll continue it on the other side. Here we go.
Today with the pastor from Arkansas, Tony Alamo, talk about that evil Bill Clinton, what he tried to do to him. And this piggybacks the story that I did with John Peeler, a former FBI agent, who was assigned to bring down Tony Alamo and basically bring down a good man. And we're going to get into this story in depth today on the Investigative Journal. My guest is Tony Alamo. His name came across my desk years ago, and it came across from a CNN article that ripped him apart. And they did this all through America during the 90s when he was arrested, and he's nothing of that sort. And I learned that through an FBI agent named John Peeler, who's been on my show, who actually apologized to Tony after he was told to really take him out. Amazing. Tony's written a little story here. I'm going to read this on his website. It's called Conspiracy, so you get to know this man a little bit. Now we're going to get into his story. And he says this: the word conspiracy in Black's Law Dictionary means a combination or confederacy between two or more persons formed for the purpose of committing by their joint efforts some unlawful or criminal act. Webster's Dictionary defines it as an act conspiring combination of men for an evil purpose. An agreement between two or more persons to commit a crime in concert is treason, a plot. An agreement manifesting itself in words or deeds by which two or more persons confederate to do an unlawful act. The conspiracy to overthrow the freedom of religion in the United States is probably coming from subversive judges, prosecutors, and others who have joined themselves into a group called the Cult Awareness Network. During World War II, the Cult Awareness Network, known as the Ministry of Cults in Germany, accused the Jews, of all people, of being a cult. The Jews, who through their Holy Spirit wrote the Old Testament and New Testaments of the Bible. Today, the Cult Awareness Network calls any church or religion a cult that refuses to join the United Council of Churches, sometimes called the One World Church, International, National, or World Council of Churches, all headed by the Vatican. The offices of Cult Awareness Network can be found in Rome and the Catholic Archdiocese throughout the United States, and this story goes on Tony's website called AlamoMinistries.com. Pastor Alamo, how are you today?
Feel good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I wanted to read that because I think it explains exactly who's at the center of the Vatican of controlling the religions in the United States. And we're going to get into your story, but what do you think about that statement I just made?
Well, it's biblical. The Bible states that the Antichrist is powered by Satan, and Satan's seat is in the city of the seven mountains, and the city of the seven mountains happens to be Rome. Anybody would try to buy a ticket from a travel agency, and just all you have to do is ask for a ticket to the city of the seven mountains, and you're going to get a ticket to Rome. And so there's only one major religion there, and that happens to be Catholicism. And we found out that through investigation and all the persecutions that we've had, and also I have some people that are in the Vatican that tell me things, and they let me know it isn't as though it's somebody from down the street. It's people that are in the Vatican, and then also many people that have been in the Vatican and have received salvation since.
So you've had some inside sources there telling you about what they're up to, really, correct?
That, and also I'm very close. I didn't believe in God or Jesus until one day I had a supernatural experience with him, and I've had many of them since. And the Lord tells me these things. And then after you read the Bible, it tells you right in the Bible. So to me, the Bible and the Comforter, the Holy Spirit that is in me and counsels me all the time, tells me all these things. I've written many pieces of literature, one called The Pope's Secrets, another one, The Fugitive Pope, because he was a war criminal. I mean, it's now after 42 and a half years of being saved and being a pastor for most of those years, an assistant pastor, many people have told me that I'm the one that kicked the hole in the wall, and they're coming through now. So all kinds of other people are knowing these things. For sure, yes, I do have inside knowledge in the Vatican and people that were in the Vatican that got out, and then also primarily, more than that, people ask me, Jack Chick asked me if I had been in the Vatican before or was a Catholic, and I told him no. I get that from the Lord because he wanted to know he and Alberto Rivera were wondering that because of the Pope's Secrets that I had written.
Okay, I got to take a break here, but we'll come back with Tony. Quite interesting. And I want, he mentioned Alberto Rivera, Jack Chick, a publisher who is not afraid to talk about the Vatican, recently passed away. Alberto Rivera, Jesuit priest who was killed by the Vatican, spoke at the Alamo Ministries long in the 80s, long before many people were even talking about this subject. Back in 3 minutes on The Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal. Thanks for coming back. Stay tuned. I'm talking about the Tony Alamo case, and we're going back to an interview I did with Tony back in 2007, a man who's been in prison for almost a decade now for crimes he didn't commit, and we're going to present a pardon to the pardon attorney in the Trump administration. But before I get back to this interview, let me go to a petition site that I have started. There's a petition. You can go online and sign a petition, and go to freeTonyAlamo.com. At the top left, there's a place you can get to the petition site. And let me read some of the comments, a couple comments here, the people that have signed the petition to release Tony. Okay, here we go. Rita from Georgia said this: "It is criminal and even Bolshevistic what the American government did to this man, and worse, what they did to his congregation. The federal government, without warning, raided the church and took children away from their parents and put them in government offices overnight. Young children. Some never saw their parents again. Some families that managed to get away were hunted down on expressways and their children pulled away and taken out of the cars. This action is un-American. Why? Do the American people not have freedom of speech? This man was doing nothing but preaching and doing good deeds around the world. What threat did he cause to America but to teach the gospel of Jesus Christ? I hope President Trump will hear this case and release him from prison. Well, Rita, I hope so too. And we're trying our best to do that. But let me tell you why they came down on him, not only for spreading the gospel, but he wasn't afraid to talk about the Vatican Jesuit connection to our government, both in the spiritual, not only that, but in the political world as far as foreign and domestic policy. He wasn't afraid to open our eyes to that, and he's done it for a long, long time. And basically, they had to shut him up. He was very, very successful at getting this word all over the world. And here's a comment. Let me go to somebody outside of our country here. Let's see. I've got one here. No, here's one from Ohio. Tony is a good man. Joshua said this and has helped so many people. His ministry is his family, and he cares so deeply for strangers and those without hope. He does exactly what a Christian is supposed to do. He has taught me so much, and I will continue to pray for this man suffering this great persecution. Henry from Kenya said, an anointed man of God should be let free to accomplish the Lord's ministry. And Matthew from California said, may the truth set us free. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people who have come forward to express what they feel. Nigeria, here's one. He is being held simply for the expose, and Conrad says this, on the Pope's secrets and other revealing articles. Man, there's people from all over the world and all over every of the 50 states that have come forward. Here's one from Ted from New Hampshire. I'm not a Protestant, but I feel it is a travesty that an 82-year-old Christian preacher is in jail on false charges by the government while illegal aliens get a free pass for actual crimes. President Trump, please pardon Pastor Alamo. And I hope Trump has the courage. You know, he seems to be fighting a battle against the media. He seems to be fighting an uphill battle on most everything he wants to do. And so maybe I think, and I really believe this, that the pardon attorney will look at this, and we're going to present the best case we can to free Tony Alamo this year. Now, I'm going to get back to this interview. One comment I've overlooked. Everybody was watching Super Bowl Sunday, most everybody. I didn't watch it. I spent the day walking my dog. And, it's funny for me. I'm not really – I really was watching, and I was getting a little sick at the festivities. Did you realize it cost $5 million to run a 30-second ad? My goodness, I mean, money could be spent much better by these corporations. And one of them was Diet Pepsi, all this garbage. I mean, it's crazy. So I boycotted the Super Bowl. And that's funny. I was a college football player. I had a college scholarship. And, it's just no interest to me anymore when they play. Occasionally I like watching certain college games. But anyway, just a little thought on Super Bowl Sunday. So let's get back to that interview I did with Tony in 2007. Okay, here we go. Let me pod this up. Here we go.
You know Alberto Rivera, Father Alberto Rivera?
Oh, yeah, I know him very well. I know his son today, and I know his wife, and I know all about him. He lived at my house for quite a while.
Really? He lived at your house, so you know him well. Because I had Nuri Rivera, his wife, on Monday, and talked about, and she was very open about his story, about verifying everything he said was true. But again, since you know him well, and there's been many, every time I talk about him or bring his story up, I always get emails that are contradicting him and try to put him down. Can you verify what he says about the infiltrations by the Catholic Church, the Jesuit order, into ministries such as yours and others in our country? Was he telling the truth, is what I'm getting at?
Oh, yes, he really was. It was amazing because he himself was in the Vatican, and he was right next to the Pope. And he has all kinds of, he's dead now. He visited me while I was in prison for the gospel's sake. They put me in prison on false IRS charges, I guess. John Peter told me that.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. later, but I want to get in depth on your story because it shows how they tried to persecute you.
They didn't try. They've been doing it ever since I've been saved. It's just that it isn't a situation of them trying. They're doing it to this very day. But, we are going to not be counted with the fearful and unbelieving, but we're going to stand up and tell people what's going on. So many people are trying to transfer that it's the Jews that are the ones that are trying to take over the world, but it was Cardinal Spellman that went into San Francisco with a lot of the world leaders, and he along with them, are the ones, the Vatican started they're the ones that started the United Nations.
Yeah, so you get Spellman and the Vatican starting the United Nations. Like you said, they love to spread hatred of all Jews to deflect any kind of criticism towards them. Yeah.
Propaganda-wise, what they did is they keep trying to make it look like it's the Jews or the commies or the commies and all these different things they say that are doing the evil in the world are nothing more than smokescreens to smokescreen that in all the things you see today, like the bombing of the World Trade Center, destruction. They planted bombs all the way through that. I'm sure you know all these things. And, I've heard hundreds of witnesses that were there at the federal building that they saw them bringing explosives in there. There's all kinds of witnesses that state that they were bringing explosives into the World Trade Center. All kinds of witnesses state that they went to kill David Koresh. They call it a turkey shoot. There's so much of this conspiracy. Actually, the Vatican has come out of the closet. Satan has come out of the closet, and it's just amazing to me that the people in the world, the whole world, can't see that. I know that we're getting thousands upon thousands of letters stating that their eyes are open now, and they ask me what to do about it.
Oh, the dogs, they liked your message there. But anyway, we'll get them outside in a minute here. But we're going into a break anyway. Tony, Pastor Alamo, you want to be called Pastor Alamo? Is that fine?
Well, you just call me, that's fine, or Tony. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm just a called servant of the Lord, that's all.
One question, as the dogs quiet down here. You said you were saved 42 years ago, and the persecution's been going on. I'm going to ask you, why do you think your message has been silenced? How have people been kept from the truth? We'll get to that right after this break on the Investigative Journal. We're back with Pastor Tony Alamo talking about how he's been persecuted over the years for trying to get this message out of Vatican involvement in the New World Order. Tony, how do you think, from your eyes, how have they been able to keep this message from the people?
It hasn't been. I've put out over 200 million pieces of literature about the Pope's secrets alone, in Los Angeles alone, and we probably put out another 300 million throughout the rest of the world. On worldwide radio, we're in over 200 countries. We have distributed my literature in all the different countries, in China, everywhere in the world. The reason that they're trying to distract people with all these different bombings and all that sort of stuff is to get people's minds on the violence, on the different terrorism and all that, because they want their mind off of the gospel. That's why they're after me so much, is because we really have the gospel. I'm Jewish. I'm a born-again Jew. And before I was saved, I was a top promoter. I did the promotion for Sonny and Cher. I was the first one with the multiple hits, national, worldwide hits, 20 original hits. And
you knew Sonny and Cher real well. You promoted their work, huh?
Yeah, I knew Sonny. Sonny and I had an office together with H.B. Barnum and Jack Mitchie, who did a lot of the stuff for the Rolling Stones, Bobby Sox, the Blue Jeans, and all those people. And I'm out of the record industry and the motion picture industry. And everybody loved me until I got saved. And persecution happened. We've got headlines in all the major newspapers for years. But then there was a woman from Channel 5 in Fort Smith that came to me and told me, Tony, if you tell this to anybody else, I'm going to call you a liar. This was years ago. She said the federal government's going around to all the radio stations and saying, you're too hot for them. What you want to do now, they said, is if you, the radio stations, say anything good or bad about Tony Alamo, we're going to take your FCC license away from you. You're going to be shut down. Well, my brother had a radio talk show in Nashville, and he just kept doing interviews with me. I'm not saying
what were you saying back then, Tony? Tell us what you were saying that caused the FCC to come down.
I was saying Jesus Christ is coming back to earth again. I'm a born-again Jew filled with the Holy Spirit, and I am coming to you from the living God. I didn't believe in God and Jesus, but the Lord saved my soul. And the people that are doing all this persecution is the Vatican, because the Vatican hates anyone that's preaching the gospel. And a lot of people are getting involved into this. I'm not in it for the money. I own a Beatles album that's worth over $15 million. And I've never sold it to prove to people that I'm not being saved or doing this for money. I don't sell anything. All the literature I have, I give away. I give away Bibles. We give them away to the tens of thousands, and we send them all over the world. And I won't take any money for anything. And so I'm real, and the Lord really saved my soul. I didn't believe in God and Jesus, but a supernatural experience happened to me in the office. And anybody that's in it for the money doesn't want to hear my message. But I do tell people where it's coming from. I expose the government inside our government, which is the Vatican government. We're living under Roman canon law.
Right. You say this in one of your articles. Let me just read this sentence. You say, but Catholic and allied Catholic judges and prosecutors, as well as all Catholic and allied Catholic one-world religion government officials, from the President of the United States on down, realized that when they were appointed to their high positions in the United States government, that playing ball with the Vatican would be a part of the deal for their position, prestige, and power. That's a statement that gets right down to it, and that's why they persecuted you way back then, right, Tony?
Yeah, that's by exposing them, brought them out of the closet. But the thing that they're really after me for is because of the gospel, because I'm winning hundreds of thousands, even millions of souls to the Lord. We are the largest soul-winning organization in the whole world. And I call it an organization because it's the Lord's organization. I did not organize it at all. And that's why they hate us, is because in order to preach the gospel, you have to preach against the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is Rome, the one world government, and the media. The major media. I'm not talking about you and I. We're media also. But we're collecting a lot of new listeners.
Yes, we are. Well, listen, Pastor Alamo, let me take a short break. We'll come back, and we'll get into your story in depth after this short message.
Sure.
Okay, we're back with Pastor Tony Alamo. And Pastor Alamo, before we get into your story, can you tell us how we can get in touch with you, where people can read articles like the one I'm paraphrasing here, Conspiracy, and others on your website?
Yes, AlamoMinistries.com is one good way to get a hold of us.
And where are you based out of now?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles right now. We've had a church here for the past 40 years, 1330 Sierra Highway. We have services every evening in all of our churches all over the world. We have 8 o'clock every evening, and then on Sunday, 3 in the afternoon and 8 in the evening. We serve meals after each service. So the hungry can come there every night, or they can come there during the day, too, if they're hungry or if they need clothing or anything like that. We preach the gospel, and then we teach people all the things that you're doing, exposing the Antichrist government and cult in Rome and the media at large I'm talking about. So that's what we do.
You have an Arkansas connection too, right? Or you did have a ministry?
We have a church in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and one in Falk, Arkansas. We have a church in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We've got several hundred distributors of my literature in the United States and thousands of them all over the world: Africa, India, Philippines, Greece, China, Japan, everywhere.
Yeah, and tell us about your radio show. I know you have a show yourself, and tell us where you broadcast and what your listenership is like.
Well, we broadcast everywhere in the world. We're on Radio Africa. In Africa and in India, they primarily listen to shortwave, but we're on a lot of AM and FM stations. People, if they contact us, we will send them a radio schedule. I'm not even familiar with the different time zones there because we're on so many different stations. We're in Los Angeles on 2 different stations, and we're on some stations that hit the whole United States. We're getting a lot of responses. Our email machines never stop from getting emails all day long. We have 2 or 3 people just taking emails off from the response from the radio programs. I could have my wife get on and to read some of the times if you like.
Yeah, we can do that in a moment. Let's hold that for a minute, and then we'll get into that maybe at the end of the show. But I wanted to get into, let's start off with your life. I mean, this is an amazing story. You were saved. What was that supernatural event that occurred?
Well, I was doing a promotion. I did the promotion for Sonny and Cher. The whole Democratic Party wanted me to do the promo for the president and for not just him, but the whole Democratic Party. Ted Chirac is one of those main ones that's still alive that asked me to do that, along with Mayor Yorty and Walter Winchell and the whole Democratic Party. And how I got saved, I was doing a promotion at this time for Bobby Jameson. He's a kid, and I was in the office. My attorney and his wife, they wanted me to go to another attorney in Beverly Hills because they wanted to, along with Shirley MacLaine and others, Robert Mitchum, they wanted to invest in the thing, and I didn't want to, this whole promo. It was on my label, and I did all the promotion on it, but I went there, and while I was there, to make a long story short, my ears shut off, and I didn't believe in God and Jesus. As a matter of fact, there's a cross here in Hollywood, across from the Hollywood Bowl, and I wanted to have it. And so I wanted to have it tore down because it was offensive to me, and the Bible says that the cross is an offense because it reminded me of a graveyard, and when I'd go out to Hollywood at night for a good time, I'd see that cross up there, and I thought, this is very offensive to me. I'm sitting in this office, my ears shut off, and I can't hear a tread or anything, and I had 6 motorcycle police with me because they were part of the hype that I was doing in Hollywood, and I had an entourage of 17 people that followed us around. My ears shut off, and all of a sudden, I started hearing in my body, or inside my body, better than I ever did in my ears, and the voice said, I am the Lord thy God. Stand up on your feet and tell these people in this room about the Lord Jesus Christ and that he's coming back to earth again, or thou shalt surely die. And so I figured, well, I'm going crazy, so I'm going to check myself into a private mental institution, because I know Don Gibson, and he went to Camarillo, and he got out, and nobody thinks evil of him. He's the one that wrote Oh Lonesome Me, and I Can't Stop Loving You, and things like that. And so I said, I'm going to get out of here. And so I tried to push myself up from the seat, and this power that was coming down at the same time on me wouldn't let me get up. And then it said again, doubt not, I am the Lord thy God. Stand upon your feet and tell these people in this room about the Lord Jesus Christ, or thou shalt surely die. And my brain opened up then to the understanding, and I knew there was a heaven and a hell. And I tell you before, I never believed that at all. Then I says, if this is God, then there's got to be a devil, and I don't know which one this is. I mean, why would God mix religion with business here?
Right.
And so, and especially me, because I was really a person, a hellraiser, and so I tried to push myself up, and when I did, my spirit started going in and out of me real fast, like somebody was playing with my soul like a yo-yo, and my heart started beating real fast, and I thought it was beating out of my chest almost. And I says, all right, I was saying it silently to him because I knew he knew everything that I was.
You thinking you're going crazy.
Yeah, I really thought I was. Yeah. And so anyway, I says, okay, God's telling me to tell you that Jesus Christ is coming back to earth again. Okay. First I was arguing with the Lord. They're going to think I'm nuts, and these people won't believe me anyway. You don't know them like I do. Let me I'll call them in the morning. I'll call these guys, the attorney and my 2 attorneys, And the movie stars, and I'll send him cables or something. He started pulling the breath out of me and made me do it right then, because I'm Jewish. You know, I don't believe in Jesus and not even God. Because I never was raised Jewish. And all of a sudden, this happened. So finally, I said, okay, God's telling me to tell you that Jesus Christ is coming back to earth again. Okay, and I thought everybody's going to flip out, but they didn't. They just looked at me like they were watching TV or something. Then the Lord came down and says, you are a top promoter. You promoted the American Health Studio, so wet figure form. I was the executive vice president of the world's largest health studio chain. And he says, and you did, hi there, this is the record king with the most fantastic record offer of all time. 20 smash hits on one big album for only X amount of money. And I had Earl McDaniel, the top disc jockey here in Los Angeles, do the spot for me. And we went on Wins and all the major radio stations, and I made millions at that. And then add more life to your years and more years to your life. Join the American Health Studios and so I take it for him. So he says, now you did that for them and for Bobby Jamieson, the world's next phenomenon. What about me? That's all you're going to do is tell them that, you know, God's telling me to tell you that Jesus Christ come back to earth again. And I says, oh, my God, you know, God's going to kill me. I'm trying to con God, you know. Right. And so I says, I'll tell him, but I didn't know the Bible. And so I remember walking into a theater in New York because I didn't have anything to do for a few minutes years before that. And it was Elmer Gantry, and I heard him say, oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus, one of these. And I thought, oh, man, fanatic, you know, so I walked out. But I heard him say on the way out, repent, you know. And so that's all I knew. So I started telling everybody in there, repent, because I was afraid. God says, or thou shalt surely die, and I knew I'd go right to hell. I figured I'd see them go to hell, and then I'd go right after them.
Okay, I've run out of time, and you can get that whole interview on a video. They put it out on a video. Just Google Greg Anthony interviews Tony Alamo 2007, and it's a 2-hour interview, and they've got some nice pictures and everything to make it even better. But that's just the beginning of Tony's story, and again, go to freetonyalamo.com, and you can sign up on the petition, read about it, and don't take the word of the mainstream media. You got to look at the other side of the story, and again, we'll look at the other side of the story tomorrow on the Investigative Journal. Thanks for coming by. See you tomorrow.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.